Former UK Prime Minister warns that Mark Carney was a disaster as the governor of the Bank of England and would be even worse as the Prime Minister of Canada. Welcome to my channel, y'all. I hope you're having a great day. The Counter-Signal, a alternative media source within Canada, caught up with Liz Truss, a former Prime Minister of the UK, admittedly a not very popular Prime Minister who only served for 49 days, but she had this to say about Mark Carney, his policies, and whether or not he would be a good Prime Minister for Canada.
Just wanting to get your thoughts on Mark Carney and your relationship with him while you were Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and any advice you have to Canadians who think he might make a good Prime Minister.
Well, Mark Carney was Governor of the Bank of England, and under his tenure, too much money was printed, which did damage to the British economy and put our economy off track. He, at the last election, endorsed Rachel Reeves' economic policy. She's now become Chancellor. It's been a disaster for Britain. The country is heading for bankruptcy. So I would strongly recommend not backing Mark Carney or his policies on net zero, which have been disastrous for Britain and would be disastrous for Canada.
Do you trust his judgment overall, outside of ideological considerations?
Well, I believe that he made major mistakes in the management of the Bank of England. He has pushed net zero, which has been a disaster, not just for the UK, but for many countries across the world.
Thanks for your time, Prime Minister. I appreciate it.
Now, some might say that was a fairly harsh assessment of Mark Carney, or some might say that she was a little bit reserved. Actually, I think that she was a little bit reserved myself. So why did Mark Carney leave the Bank of England? Well, that's an interesting point. See, he apparently weighed in on the whole Brexit issue, and he wanted the UK to stay within the European Union. Let's take a look at an excerpt from an article regarding this. The article can be found in World Finance, The Voice of the Market. So the article does have a fairly dramatic title, A Marked Man, Carney's BOE Departure. So Mark Carney, apparently, he became the governor of the Bank of England in 2012. And then in 2019, he was set to leave. So it appears he was there for around 7 years. When he began his tenure at the Bank of England, he was lauded as an outstanding central banker by the then Chancellor. But his fall from grace appears to have been another consequence of the UK's decision to leave the European Union, according to the article here. The article does go into a little bit of his history, where he was born, where he was educated, his education, and basically that he was also in the private sector working for Goldman Sachs. It then goes on to talk about his tenure as the deputy governor of the Bank of Canada between 2004 and 2007, where he served as a senior associate deputy minister and the G7 deputy at the Canadian Department of Finance. In 2008, he went on to serve as the governor of the Bank of Canada before leaving the role in 2012 to become the governor of the Bank of England. So I guess he saw that as a promotion. So initially, he seemed to be fairly popular, but then he started to become unpopular after he weighed into European politics or British politics in 2016. He started to speak on the issue of the UK leaving the EU, and he claimed that it would result in the UK seeing 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. According to James Bartholomew, who wrote in The Spectator, Mark Carney appeared to be going beyond any formal Bank of England forecast. Effectively, he was supporting the Remain campaign by backing Project Fear. He gave up the political neutrality expected of governors. He basically thought of himself as being a politician way back then and weighing into an area where he didn't belong. He belonged in the bank and doing banker things, and then he started weighing into politics. Carney said that he had not broken any central bank independence, claiming his warnings on the potential outcome of a British withdrawal from the European Union were just part of his job. I don't think that a lot of people saw it that way because clearly he's a bit of a globalist. A lot of us have that opinion of him, so this kind of confirms that. Now, written in this article, it says that central bankers are supposed to be independent, free from politics, adhering only to the strict doctrine of technocratic management. Many have often dismissed this as a fantasy, but of late, the very foundations of central bank independence appear to be cracking. They saw him as interfering, sticking his nose into areas that it did not belong. Now, this paragraph I found very interesting. Since 1997, the Bank of England has officially enjoyed political independence. Indeed, this independence is a part of the reason a non-national such as Carney was able to hold the role without controversy. So at the time, it appears that he was not a British citizen. I don't know if he has gained citizenship. He has apparently claimed that he does have some European citizenship. The central bank independence is increasingly questioned, and as a result, the very sort of central banker Carney was once lauded as may no longer be the ideal type. If Carney really is the outstanding central banker of his generation, as Osborne proclaimed upon his appointment, then his generation's understanding and practice of central banking comes under question, and so too will Carney's own reputation. So it appears that the writer here really doesn't think too highly of that whole generation of central bankers. And Liz Truss was not the only British Prime Minister who took a shot at Carney. Prime Minister Theresa May, speaking at a Conservative Party annual conference, said that Mark Carney's Bank of England is a steadfast defender of loose monetary policy and can only be interpreted as a dig to him and his role as the bank's governor. He may also criticize the arrogance of the supposed international elite. And she said, if you believe you are a citizen of everywhere, you are a citizen of nowhere. I think that she was really voicing a lot of the concerns that we have now about Mark Carney being a globalist and following really the same path that Trudeau and Trudeau's father followed back in the day. Now, the article further wrote that Carney is now operating in a world that is increasingly turning against the values he represents and holds. A technocrat who disavows ideology, a transnational figure who feels citizenship in one state does not preclude service to another, an expert who imagines himself to be engaged in science, not politics, an appointed official who feels he should be insulated from the passions of public opinion. As a Davos man, in a world where the values of Davos are increasingly sneered at or attacked by the electorates, Mark Carney is now set to have his own personal Brexit. The Brits do have a certain class in the way they trash people. I kind of like it. I kind of like reading what they say about Carney here. So this is what we get if Mark Carney wins the Liberal Leadership Convention, and it does look like he is the front runner. He will be the leader of the Liberal Party and thus the Prime Minister. And he will probably be the shortest serving Prime Minister, beating out Kim Campbell, who was Prime Minister back in the day for, 5 months, I think it was. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, this is the man. This is the man who everybody had high hopes for in England as the leader of the Bank of England, but he proved there that he was a Davos man. He was a globalist. And we're turning against globalists here, as we should, and they turned against globalists there, as they should. So I don't think that Mark Carney is a very good option to be Prime Minister. And I hope, and I do believe it so, that Canadians won't choose him either. So that's good. He will only be Prime Minister for a very short period of time until the adults take over. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you think. Put your comments down below. And while you're at it, please like this video, share with your friends and on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. Also, please join me on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time for my live stream on both YouTube and Rumble, where you are invited to join in on the conversation. Finally, I do teach the Canadian firearm safety courses. These courses are required to get your Canadian firearms license, which is required if you want to possess or purchase a firearm in Canada. So if you reside on Vancouver Island and you want to take a course from me, there are links in the show notes of this video to my website where you can sign up for one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.